I was thinking this song would be a good one for like it'd be like a time travel song. I'm imagining it's like a time travel song, and the kids are coming back to their parents, but it's before the parents actually give birth to the kids. So it's like maybe even before they're pregnant. It could be during the time they're pregnant or before, but it sounds like this. We have the face of your children. We have the face of your children. We have the face of your children. We have the face of your children.
Listen here, Gypsy. I don't know what this haiku you speak of, but as I must tell you, I have exited the red room in order to smoke the tobacco of the camel. I have to go out front. So this is where I am. Goodbye.
This is the sound of the people working on construction. This is the sound of the people working on construction. Lots of things are happening. Lots of things are happening today, right now. Lots of things are happening. Lots of things are happening now. Airplanes, police, cars, hammering. Airplanes, police, cars, hammering. Cars driving by, and the wind. This is the sound of the people working on construction. And now we take you to an airplane flying through the sky. In other news, a new riff I've been working on. I've been tinkering with. I don't use that word tinker, but I will now.
Hi, this is Jay Ossing from Twin Peaks The Return. You're listening to Inspirado Projecto.
Hello?
Hey, Daniel.
Hey.
Hey, it's Kurt with Inspirado Projecto podcast. Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Hey. Well, I'm glad to join you.
Oh, this is so cool. So, I signed up with this app called Anchor, and it's like the easiest way to make an app in the a podcast in the world. It's like the easiest way, and up until that point, it was just like, man, it was just like this curiosity. How do I actually go about making a podcast? What's this thing about the RSS feed? How do I, what's the particulars? So then when Anchor came out and they said, oh, look, you could just make this podcast right from your phone, man, I just went hog wild on this thing. And once I found that I could start placing that RSS feed in various podcast directories and apps and stuff, that was exciting. And that's how I came across Podyssey FM. So thank you for, creating that site and the app.
Cool. I'm glad. I've heard some good things about Anchor. It's good to see how making stuff easier for people makes a difference.
Now, what's your journey in coming about creating that app? I mean, how did you first get interested in podcasts, for instance?
Oh, I guess I've been just doing it for a while. It's one of the. I feel like I've always been thinking about stuff I'm passionate about, and there's something about the audio medium that I don't know. It just I connect with the stories people say on it. So there's something special about it that I don't know if I can fully articulate yet, but I've always enjoyed podcasts. I mean, for the last 5-6 years, and I thought, hey, why don't I build something to help me find out what I built an app called Podyssey, and it pretty much I built it so that I could see what other podcasts my friends were listening to. So that's why I built it.
That's brilliant.
Oh, I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, it's cool how that stuff grows like that, where you just create this thing just for you and your friends, like, oh yeah, what are my friends up to? And then it starts snowballing and this momentum starts growing and growing, and then your friends like it enough that they pass it on to their friends, and, now here you are. So when did you first start? Well, I'm always interested in the process of creation. I always love, like, what those seeds start as and how they grow throughout the time. So when you first made it with your friends, for instance, when you made it as an app just for your friends, did it have the capabilities yet to handle a large amount of people, to be a part of it?
I feel like scaling wise, it probably wasn't horribly bad. It could have done. It definitely has gotten better over time. I would say to even take a step back. I feel like it's a 5-year journey. I feel like I couldn't have, and I'm sure this is with everyone's creations, and it was cool to communicate with you before about this, but just the process of, this isn't my first app. I don't know if I could have built this as my first app. And so I started building apps around 5 years ago, and just the process from that point to this point, I probably couldn't tell you that 5 years ago, but looking back on it, how helpful a lot of the things that didn't work out, how helpful all the learnings from that have been just to kind of build this out.
Well, I noticed that you, for instance, you have a company called Lighthouse Labs where you teach, basically, as they say, you teach people how to fish. So you're kind of teaching them how to code, huh?
Yeah. So it's not my company. I'm one of the teachers there, but I've definitely been there since. I've been there since the start of us teaching people how to build iOS apps. So I think it's a pretty good. So I live in Canada. It's the first boot camp here in Vancouver. But I'm sure in America, actually, I know in America they have something very similar, which is teach someone how to build an app in a pretty short amount of time, around 2 months, maybe, depending on the program, maybe a bit longer, 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it's intense. The students do 10 to 12 hour days. But it's fun. It's something I wish I had when I learned to code, because I feel like what took me about a year, these students do in 2 or 3 months. That learning process happens.
It's interesting how that information gets compacted more and more into tinier little segments over time, right? And so what took of I mean, in a sense, you were an explorer in this sort of unknown territory. You're trying to learn all this crazy stuff and how the connections work and all that stuff. And before you know it, you're able to kind of whittle down those little golden nuggets. And, and then imagine a bunch of people in your shoes who are doing that same thing. And then they pass that information like, okay, here you go. Here are the golden nuggets. And then that's where everyone else gets to start from. So it's such an interesting process how that happens.
It's been fun to do something, and to be honest, like Podyssey, the app I'm working on isn't where I wanted to be right now. I feel like around like 50 people a day use it, but I would like my goal by the end of this year is to get 1,000 people a day to use it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Well, it's inevitably going to happen, I mean, once things get momentum and people find a lot of use with it, they start speaking on your behalf. They kind of become your megaphones and, start bringing more and more people into it. So that's cool, man. So let's say, for instance, when you first had that inception of the idea of, I want to build this app to see what my friends are up to, with what podcast they're listening to. Between that and when you really got it that very first time working, how long did that take?
Maybe it was longer than I would have thought. Since it probably took me about 5-6 months, which is probably longer than it should have taken. But it was a bit of iterations and just trying on new things. But yeah, it took me 5-6 months to put it on the App Store and actually show it.
Even that is insane.
Well, I mean, to be honest, it's probably not if you read the tech startup blogs, they probably tell you to hey, cut down your stuff and build it in a month. But I don't know, there was something, I was like, hey, I want it this way. So I took the time to build it. And it took me about 5-6 months to do it.
There's one of those great...
yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say there's that great phrase of, kind of making the art that you want to see in the world, and that sounds exactly what you've been doing here.
Oh, man, I appreciate that. Yeah, there was also some technical learning as well. It was the first Android app I ever built. So there was definitely moments of frustration and learning, because I was like, oh, what is this Android apps? But it was also fun to learn. I guess for the last 5 years I've been mainly focused on iOS apps, but I've always been curious about Android apps, so it was a good starting point for building one. Yeah.
What was it that inspired you to start getting into coding things? Where was that epiphany in your brain where you go, oh my God, that looks very interesting right now?
The first app I built was around community as well. So I guess it was around 5 years ago, and I was lucky enough to work at a Vancouver tech company. I don't have a computer science degree or something. I have a biochem degree. I just went to school, did some biochem, but I didn't really enjoy it. I mean, it was useful in terms it teaches you skills that actually apply to development. You learn how to have a scientific approach to stuff, which is useful in all walks of life, but also in development. I was lucky enough to, I started I started working for free for this local startup, and then they liked me, and then they hired me, and then I got to hang around developers and see what they did, and then I kind of wanted to build my own thing, because I was playing a lot more sports back then. I still do. I still really enjoy just getting out and meeting people new to the city. So I love pickup sports, and you just meet a random bunch of people when you do that, and it's normally it's in Vancouver. It feels like a cool community. Like I just went this weekend to the same thing that inspired. So 5 years ago, I just randomly walked into the park. I met these like 5 guys just playing football, and so I went. I don't go as often nowadays, but last Saturday I went, and the community is still there. It's the people going to the park, and now I feel like it was almost like 15 people. So just a group of people getting together over sports, but hanging out, having fun on a weekend. So so my first step was I wanted to take that and help people discover. So like I randomly just walked by that and saw that they were welcoming, but I wanted to build an app so no matter where in the world around you people were playing sports, you could see like they were welcoming and.
That's awesome. Dude, yeah. Brilliant. That's an awesome idea. Great way to build communities. That's so kick-ass because, you might got some guy who's got a brand new soccer ball and he's like, oh, man, if only I had a team, someone to play with right now in the park. And to be able to kind of magnetize those people together, how kick-ass is that, dude? That's brilliant.
It was fun, but there was like super highs. It was my first app. It was super hard. And it took me a year. It took me a year to do something that wasn't, I got the bare minimum out, but it was super frustrating because my skill level at that time, the stuff I wanted to do, it was frustrating to hear people be like, oh, cool, it's cool, but you need to add this thing, and it was just so heartbreaking that I was like, I don't know how to do that. Like, how do I, like a part of it was the technical, but part of it was just like, I was a bit overwhelmed with building my first app. So the first app was really fun. I got people together to play some sports, but there were times that it was super frustrating because I felt like people asked me to do some things, and it was really frustrating to not be able to do it.
So right, because you were sort of learning as you're going along, huh?
Yeah.
So they were asking you these questions, and you're like, "Look, I really don't have a frame of reference for what you're asking me right now."
Yeah, no, it's like I tried to do that, and the whole app breaks. So
man.
Yeah.
So you were basically a one-man team on this thing, huh?
Yeah. For the first app, it was pretty much just me. I had a friend that helped me design all the stuff, so it made it look a lot better than it was. But all the coding. It was me, and there's that was one thing that I was lucky about because I'm not someone that reads a ton of stuff. So around 5 years ago, people started, putting online tutorials, written tutorials, but people started doing YouTube tutorials. So how do you run a basic app? Like you can go on YouTube, and there's some paid websites. Like I used something called Team Treehouse, which was $30 a month. And they put out amazing content, which was, hey, we're going to build like Instagram, and we're going to walk you through the whole step of how to build Instagram.
Whoa,
yeah,
that's awesome.
So it was like really helpful, and I feel like if that wasn't around, I feel like the timing worked out really well for that because I really needed that for me to be able to feel. It sounds like what you were saying about Anchor, like. It sounds like, hey, Anko came out at a perfect time for you to just have enough that you could do without being overwhelmed by some of the RSS stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was like, are you kidding me? Like, you're setting this whole thing up for me. All I got to do is hit record, and now I can start making a podcast. Are you kidding me? Like, this is actually a possibility. I only dreamed of this could happen one day.
I'd be so curious. So, like, one awesome thing with working in building a podcast app, I'd be curious to know what do you think about RSS feeds? What do you think they do? Or do you feel like you have an understanding of what it does? I am just barely scratching the surface of what this stuff means. Like, I'm not like a technological guy, so I'm, kind of doing a little research here. Okay, what does this mean? What does that mean? All I know about the RSS feed is that it's something you can subscribe to. I know people used to be able to subscribe to blogs, like
just right there in their bookmarks. And now what it looks like is once I started making the podcast on Anchor, then I started learning, okay, how do I distribute the podcast? How to make it more available? So I started, trying to figure out what does this mean, and then I'd see a site where it goes, well, paste your RSS feed here, and I'm like, what the heck? What is that? And then I looked in the Anchor app on the desktop version, and then in the settings, sure enough, there's a little thing where it says RSS feed, and I go, oh my god, that's the gold nugget I need. So it was like living a real life video game of sorts, and I'm like, okay, that's what I need, that's the key. So then I went to the other sites, and I'm like, bling, plugging it in there. So that's all I know about the RSS feed, is that it's somehow it's connecting what's going on. That's in that reservoir of knowledge on the Anchor app, and being able to sort of make a tentacle, an umbilical cord to another website or app that can then share that information, right? I mean, that's all I kind of know.
Yeah, no, that's it. But I didn't realize this when I got into building Podyssey, but I've been so impressed, and I feel like I want to write about this and definitely talk about this right now. But I've been so impressed by the tech behind podcasting, and the reason I say that is because it's so cool to see from a tech perspective. So what I really like about the podcasting medium is, if you take video like YouTube, the thing about YouTube is YouTube owns all that content. The cool thing about podcasting is Apple doesn't own this. Right. So like most people consume all their podcasts on the Apple Player, or there's an Android equivalent, Pocket Cast. There's all these top players, but it's almost like someone built this idea that no matter who uploads the content, in your case it's Anchor, and they just use this RSS feed as a way to communicate between apps, but it doesn't matter. Like, you own your content. Anchor hosts it. Anyone can host it, and anyone can be the player. So we built this system that I would say, like, one of the problems when you have Netflix or YouTube is it's that one app, and they get to say what that, like, Netflix and YouTube is. But one of the awesome things about podcasting is I can build an app that says, oh, hey, I'm going to help you discover what your friends are listening to on their apps. So
yeah.
Yeah, so it's something unique to podcasting that, if you try to build something like this for YouTube could just say, oh, hey, by the way, we're not giving you their equivalent of the RSS feed, or they'll block that RSS feed for you. But podcasting is really cool because it's so open and anyone can build on top of this tech.
Oh my gosh! What's so exciting to me is that it makes every single podcaster is their own mobile radio station. So no matter where they're going, their radio station is right there with them.
Yeah, no, it's totally like the digital evolution of radio, right? Because it's radio, but it's so much easier because you don't have to buy that FM radio band or AM band, and I don't have to be close to you, and I don't need to listen to you at the exact same time. I can download it and listen to it later. But yeah, like I wonder. I've asked this to my friends because I've been thinking about how come I am so interested in podcasts. I wonder if 50 years ago I would have loved the radio.
Wow, right. Like back when all they had was just like, and tonight's program we have The Shadow, right? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You'd have liked the radio?
Oh yeah, radio dramas and stuff, man. I just love. See, that's ever since I was a little kid. I always loved the idea of what's going on. Like that idea that you can make an audio out there, and people don't know whether it's real or whether it's something you're invented. Like the Orson Welles with War of the Worlds. And once I heard the story of how he did that on the radio, where he was just simply reading, doing a radio play, so to speak, with no commercial interruptions, and then people plug in and they're like, wait, is there an alien invasion? And it gets everyone crazy. That is always, that kind of stuff has always fascinated me, and so it was always like a dream to kind of do radio, because then I could play with the audio medium. I could play, the songs I wanted to do. I could do interview on the street interviews, that kind of fun stuff. And now to be able to have something like this where you're not paying for airtime, that's what's so crazy to me. Like, it's just free free airspace. It's beautiful.
Did you make a conscious effort to do audio or video, or do you like both? Or
Oh, I love video too. You know that what's so interesting is that so my podcast Inspirado Projecto actually since 2016 has actually, and it's always been a dream. It's always been like a dream of mine to want to actually have my own radio show. And there was out here in Chinatown in Los Angeles, there's a radio show, and I'll have you on there sometime too if you'd like. It's the first and third Monday of every month, and the radio station is called K-Chung, 1630 a.m., and I get to do whatever I want within that hour, and it's just a dream to go, oh my God, I'm on the air, you know, and you can actually tune into radio dial, and then they save the archive, and so I do that, you know, and so in the meantime, I'm like, oh my God, I got so much information, so many ideas, so many riffs, so much of what's going on. I do need to get a podcast, and people have been telling me, and then all of a sudden, swoosh, in swooshes the universe from my buddy Lawrence. He sends me this Anchor, you know, thing, and he's like, dude, check this out. As soon as I got that, I go, okay, this is exactly what I needed. This arrived at just the right time. And so now I can use it to, now I can, oh my gosh, I can introduce the world to so many more people, because that's kind of like the heart of Inspirado Projecto, is bringing awareness to, you know, the underground musicians, the underground poets, the people who are just out there creating stuff. That's why this fascinates me with you and Podyssey FM, is that you're a creator, that like this is your art form, you know? You're painting with pixels.
I think of it very similarly, yeah. Like, it is art to a certain degree. Like, there definitely is some science, but there's science to a lot of art. But yeah, no, I definitely think of it as a creation. And sometimes I feel like we get the up and down of a whole bunch of artists. Like, you know, like it's really sad. It's really, like, if you take 6 months to do something, and that first month, it was like, man, no one knows about my app right now. And it's like, it's like really frustrating to work on something for 6 months, and then you're like, now what? Like, how do I get people to use it?
Oh my gosh, that must be so interesting. I mean, just imagine what Dr. Frankenstein went through, you know, as he's down in there in his laboratory. It reminds me of that kind of thing. Here you're building this monster, you know, no one knows about it. It's in this dark, you know, you're just like, you're in your zone, you're just doing this thing, and there's so many what ifs that are just flying up there in the sky, and you're going, okay, what if this, what if that, what if this doesn't happen, what if that, and you just don't know, and dude, that must have been so exciting, that moment where it first works. You get the first moments of feedback. Talk about echo. You're getting the echo. You kind of shout your yodel-hee-hoo. Next thing you know, you got people kind of echoing the feedback, going, hey, this is working. Hey, did you see what I just shared? Or did you see what I'm looking at? Or, you know, it must have been pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's cool to see. So, it sounds like you use the echo. Oh, I guess I saw your profile. You echoed a couple of Inspirado episodes.
Yeah, I wanted to test it out, see like what the heck the ins and outs of it and the settings, and I'm still exploring, but it's fun to just find, you know, when you start finding leverage in a brand new kind of thing that you just, you know, a new world that you're being introduced to, and you're like, oh, okay, here's where the safe watering hole is. I can drink fresh water here, and oh, there's a cave to build a hut. Okay, that's where I need that. And so that's what it kind of felt like as I was going through your app, going, oh yeah, like what's possible? What can I, you know, what can I peek around in here?
Is there anything obvious that you wanted to see?
Well, first of all, I just like I do love that echo aspect. What I'm realizing is that I need to start listening to more podcasts, because up until this point, I had not, you know what? I listened to a few episodes of Night Vale and Comedy Bang Bang. Those are the ones I had listened to. And I'm like, this is cool. And then, so that was kind of my introduction into podcasts, and just thinking that, you know, every single person has their own story, every single person has their own perspective. What might be mundane to them is something completely exciting to someone else. I mean, once I started thinking about that idea of people, like for instance, I got a buddy who would buy the subscription to Big Brother. Whenever they had the new season, he would buy the subscription so he could watch what they're doing at any time of the day or night on the live feed, and go, you know, what are they doing?
Hold that.
Yeah, it's interesting, right, to think that, okay,
Oh
if
man.
that's what's going on, well, then certainly people must love listening to these podcasts and finding out what's going on in their life. And even if they take a trip to their local zoo, or they're going to go, I'm going to go fishing today, and you're going to sit in the fishing boat with me while I'm waiting 2 hours. It's there's something
Do you
fascinating
do one
about that.
every day?
Say what?
Do you do a podcast every
Oh
day?
my gosh! When I first started, I was doing like 3 a day. Now I'm doing 1 a day for sure.
Okay.
Sometimes 3 a day. But it all depends on how many ideas to come to me, and how immediate, how soon I can reach that phone to record them. This has kind of become my. I have an idea book where I'd write down all my ideas, and so now this has become. I'm treating this the purest form of the process of creation, where it's part stream of consciousness. I catch a lot of synchronicities on there, a lot of dreams, a lot of just fringe theories, just the most outlandish things. I want to introduce that aspect of life, and so I'm using this podcast as that way to get those ideas down. And they're basically mostly gifts to my future self. They're archives for my future self to take a look at.
Have you ever listened to an episode? I mean, I guess you're living the episode, but have you gone back and listened to one?
I rarely listen to them. I'll listen to little chunks. That's the beautiful thing about Anchor, is that you can actually make segments of your podcast. So I'm not obligated to make a full, even 1 hour or 5 minutes podcast. I can go, okay, here's a 10-minute thing, and then they also provide transitions in there. So you could put like a cool little piano, bloom, 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 and then record your next thing. So I've been kind of talk about Frankenstein, sort of Frankensteining those things together. But I will listen to little segments now and again. But I think I need to do that. Listen back to that, and just to see what ideas were in my brain, and to see which ideas get recycled. That's the other interesting thing too, to see what ideas get recycled.
Yeah. It's funny. I also keep idea book.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Now, do you find yourself utilizing a lot of those ideas? Do you feel yourself obligated to those ideas that are in that idea book?
Oh, there are phases in my life where I love adding to that, and I feel like I haven't added to my idea book in probably 3-4 months now. I mean, maybe I change it. Like, I feel like I used to be very strict about having an idea book. Now I feel like I use like the Notes app and just add my. I feel like for me the idea book was I needed to write it down, or I would forget it, and I would feel like I forgotten something important. Like, I love looking back in those ideas and be like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, that was important. And,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then have you seen? Okay. So this is good. I'm so glad you're bringing this up because I'm curious about other people who keep idea books. This is a rare conversation, so this is very exciting for me because I feel that those ideas, when you get an inspired idea, an epiphany, a revelation, and you write it down, it's like do you feel that you're giving it respect? Like you're going, I see you, I recognize you. Here's my high five to you. Does it feel like that kind of sacred kind of thing to you when you write it down?
For sure. No, I feel like I needed to write it down.
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe hard for me to articulate why, but I was just like, no, this has to happen.
So then when you look back to those ideas later on, do you go, oh my God, there's the seed behind the idea of what I'm actually doing right now. I'm living the creation of that, the manifestation of that idea.
Yeah, no, it's funny to see how you can forget that for me, I definitely have forgotten some of those things that are written down, but to go back and be like, yeah, you know what, I did value this back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
and do you see that, like how that value has grown, where you're going, oh my God, here's that idea book where, maybe if you write down the date and you go, whoa, I can actually quantify this, where, 8/10/2011, I wrote this idea down for Podyssey, I just had sort of this rare thing, and then bam, holy moly, I'm living the life right now, and I forgot that I had that idea in there.
Yeah, no, I think it's. I guess part of it is like I think it's important to take time to reflect. So like I think this is just maybe one simple, fun way for us to reflect. Like these are like fun ideas that we have, or like I don't know. For me, I have I just write down random ideas as well, other than obviously Podyssey stuff. But it's good to be able to reflect on stuff and look back on what you reflected on.
It really is. Now, do you feel an allegiance to those ideas? Like those are your babies and that you feel guilty if you don't give them life?
I don't know if I do, because some of my ideas are bad. There was a time that I would even just categorize this and be like, oh, this is bad. And then I would write down next to it why it was a bad idea.
Oh, my God.
Next time, I might forget why I thought it was a bad idea.
Well, you know, it's so funny. There's this saying that my buddy and I say within improv, because I have an improv background, so we always try to make the best of whatever is right there. And so there's this phrase that once he said it to me, I'm like, man, that makes so much sense, is that there's not necessarily bad ideas. I mean, yes, you know, like... I don't know, making dolphins eat toxic waste. Okay, bad idea. But they're not necessarily bad ideas. They're just unexplored ideas. You know, there are sometimes it just takes a few stamps of approval for you to go to see other people go, yeah, I like that. Because it's kind of like putting the wind under the wings of the kite. I kind of view it like it's like, whoosh, it just needs some wind, you know? So the other day I was looking through an old idea book, and I thought, okay, you know what? I spontaneously thought about this while I was podcasting about a different thing, and I thought, you know what, everybody, we're gonna go read one of my old idea books. So we're gonna just take a look. And as I was reading through there, all of a sudden there was a little idea on there. I was reading through the ideas, and I'll comment about them and kind of reminisce about them. One of them I came across and it says, make content for cell phones. And I go, wait, make content for cell phones? In a sense, I'm doing that right now. Holy cow, I'm living the dream. I'm doing it. You know, like I just that epiphany was like, bang, you know, this lightning bolt struck the antenna.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
One awesome thing was like, I feel like you can, I'll tell you one personal thing from mine. Like I remember I was thinking that, and I'm sure I wrote this down. Actually, I'm almost positive I did, but that I wanted to be a teacher. So this was before I started teaching.
Incredible.
I wanted to teach. I just didn't know what I could teach. You know, like
wow.
I know I'd love this, but what can I possibly teach?
Wow.
Like biochem or like I don't. And then like I learned to build an app, and then it was early enough that people like were wanting to, because I started early. People were like, "Oh, how did you do it?" And then they wanted to hear, learn from how I did it.
That is incredible. You know, it's so crazy because I just love the idea of manifestation of reality and valuing our imaginations, because those things in our imagination that we highly send electricity to, so to speak, are the things that manifest in our reality in various disguises and camouflages. I like to play with that kind of reality experience. And so I think like these examples of us just talk about our idea books where we see. At that time, we did not know how it was going to happen. However, we just like an idea catcher or a dream catcher, like they hang over beds when you're going to sleep at night, just like one of those, you went, zip, I got you. I got your back. I see you. I high five you. I see you. And you go, all right, here, we're putting you down in the book. And little did you realize that the universe would take that ball and run with it. And you didn't know in what direction or how it would echo back to you. But in it comes, swooping back in, and you're going, wait a second. I accidentally just became a teacher. How the heck? What?
Yeah. No, and sometimes you can know pieces of the puzzle, but it's hard to sometimes it just makes so much sense when you look back on it. And you're like, oh yeah, I always did want to teach. Like I wrote it right there. I just was like, oh yeah, you know what? I guess I could teach this thing that I now do.
Man,
I just didn't know you could teach it. Like, right? Like, I never heard of boot camps before, so it just never occurred to me that I could, even though I knew I wanted to teach, I thought maybe I'd have to teach high school or something.
Now, what are some of, you're talking about you got your idea book. Certainly, for someone as creative as you, because like I said earlier, like what you're doing is you're painting. You're painting colors with bytes and pixels and digital, things, things I can't even wrap my mind around, or I don't have the inventory of jargon in my brain to even describe. But all these little things, the textures, the nuances. I can imagine that sort of bleeding outwards also into other endeavors. Now, what other ideas that you have that you might like to do? Would you like to get into cartoons? Would you like to get into video games, movies, making music, for instance?
It's funny you say that. So I definitely, I used to, I'm Indian. I come from the south of India. And the south of India has one unique thing that we don't have in the rest of India, which is we have a big Christian population. So I grew up in a family that was, very focused on Christianity and stuff like that. I mean, I probably haven't continued that as I've grown up, but because it was so important in my childhood, I played instruments. So I played the guitar in the local worship band and stuff like that. So music has been a big part of my life, and a big part of it is because of the religious upbringing of how we grew up. But lately, so music is a part of my life. But sadly, I don't actually pick up my guitar as much as I used to. But I've been thinking about how important film and TV is in our lives lately. I wonder how, if I've just been watching good TV and just, I feel like sometimes I am so impressed by how if you write a good story, I get, this could be TV, this could be podcast, but how you can change someone's perspective or viewpoint. Like for me, I was just watching some TV shows, and I feel like I've changed my opinion on that based on the fictional story this person was saying.
It's astounding how that works. Some of the great hypnotists, they say that the way that you really actually hypnotize people is within their imagination, is within, so the easiest way that you can actually deliver a message to people is through a medium that is taken as a playful nature. So that's why there can be so much great subversive stuff going on in movies or TV shows with someone who really wants to deliver a message, and that's why science fiction is so kick-ass, because someone like George Orwell can kind of go, okay, I see what's going on here, let's disguise it in a science fiction book, let's disguise what I see what's going on and go, let's hide it in the science fiction. Or like the movie They Live, so they go, okay, here's what's going on, but let's wrap it up within sort of a fun science fiction thriller. And it is interesting how that can happen. It's really intriguing how, for instance, I just saw the latest episode of Westworld, and I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. When you add the music to it, when you got the imagery and the drama, you could be like, whoa, man, you're hitting me right in the heart here. This is crazy how this can be done, right? It's so amazing. And the same...
So you seem like music. I listened to a couple podcasts.
Oh, cool.
So it seems like you're a musician. It sounds like you like to do a bunch of things.
Yeah. I just love. I have two. Okay, so I act. And I have 2 more days of shooting this horror film called Black Pumpkin, which we're going to do on the 19th and 20th. And also I'm in a yacht rock band called Yachtly Crew. And
what is yacht rock?
Okay, so yacht rock, it's interesting. It's this genre that has been sort of slowly climbing through the years. It started with a video series called Yacht Rock about 10 years ago, and it was all about... the title of it was Yacht Rock, and it was about the stories of Kenny Loggins and Michael McDonald and Hall & Oates and all those guys that sort of play soft rock songs. And so it started out with, the untold story. And so you'd see, a big showdown between Hall & Oates versus Kenny Loggins and Michael McDonald in the alley. And, oh, yeah, they beat each other up. And, how dare you steal my riff? And so... it started out with that, and then there was a couple of bands that would start playing that genre of music, and they would just kind of call it, okay, we're playing yacht rock, and so it was in homage, so to speak, to those those videos. So then, little by little, more and more of these bands started growing through the years, and Yachtly Crew is one of those where we play Hall & Oates, we play Steely Dan, all the love songs of the 70s and 80s, all the great... Oh, man, it's just amazing. I underestimated soft rock and love songs until I got in this band. Oh, my God. When you're playing love songs to these people, because a lot of these songs, it's crazy because I realize a lot of these songs are done by bands that either A, are not touring any longer, or B, that maybe they only had one hit. So they rarely ever play that. So you rarely ever hear these songs live. So when you kind of attach all these horses, I get this visual of like a bunch of horses on a carriage, and all those horses are these like really just powerhouse songs that that really tugged on the heartstrings back in the day, and you go hi-ya, hi-ya, and that thing kind of takes you off, and holy moly, it's just melting the hearts and exploding the minds. I mean, it's just...
Believe it. I'm glad you told me the name, because I think I'll really like it. I just didn't know that this existed.
Oh, it's crazy because now there's Yacht Rock Radio on XM Radio, and there might even be a Spotify channel at this point.
I'm checking it out.
Oh,
no,
it is.
I listen to the Vancouverite equivalent of that. We have a station here, which I mean, I don't listen to the radio very often, but when I used to drive more at night, they would play the best music. It would be like smooth driving in the night, dark and soft. I mean, I'm saying soft rock because that's what I thought of it back at the time, and I wonder. How would you describe the difference between yacht rock and soft rock?
Well, I think the thing is that, okay, so if you ask the originators of yacht rock, because those guys are out there, they like, in a sense, since they kind of made up the genre name, they kind of give the big stamp of approval on what is yacht rock and what they title yacht rock. So some people go, okay, well, is Billy Ocean yacht rock or is it yacht rock? And so they'll go, well, it's 85% yacht rock and, whatever, so they kind of decide what they think is yacht rock. So everyone at this point all yacht rock bands, like there's a yacht rock band out there called Yacht Rock Review. They'll play Billy Joel, they'll play all kinds of stuff that other people would not consider yacht rock. I guess at this point, for us, for Yachtly Crew, we go, okay, what do we consider yacht rock? Well, probably we imagine what would sound good if we were out on an actual yacht. What would sound good with the breeze whipping through your eyebrows and the the taste of pina colada in your taste buds, and what would go well with that? So we kind of try to base it on that sort of party, like Jimmy Buffett, even though we don't play any Jimmy Buffett, but that kind of vibe, where you can kind of you can visualize the Hawaiian shirts out there, the coconut cocktails, that kind of thing.
Okay, I got you.
But oh man, it's so much fun, and we finally actually played our first yacht at this woman's 40th birthday party, and it was great. Oh my God, it was so fun to actually play yacht rock music on a yacht out there while we were going out there in the water. Oh, it was just beautiful. Oh man. It was so fun. So yeah, if you what area are you? Oh, so you're in Canada, right? You were saying?
Yeah, Canada, West Coast though. So we're kind of similar, like in the similar area. Yeah.
Gosh.
I hope I one day get to come out to LA.
Oh man, yes, and also I would really love it for Yachtly Crew to go on like a world tour and we can make it out there because that would just be so fun too.
Yeah, we're not that far away. We're just right above Seattle.
Oh wow, that's great.
Yeah.
We did our first show out in Denver a few months ago. It was our very first time going out to another state, and it was surprising. We showed up there, and it was actually sold out, and I'm like, holy cow, how do these people know of our band? And how is this happening? It's amazing, and I think that just by the way that things are going, I think that it's inevitable that we'll end up out there. Now, you say that you used to play guitar. Do you still have your guitar?
I do, yeah.
Do you have your own podcast?
Do I have my own podcast? I don't.
Holy cow! You need to get your own podcast. You got so much information that the populace needs to hear.
I feel like I don't know if I actually. I feel like I don't think I can do what you do, or it seemed like are a lot of you. I don't think I'd ever enjoy doing this for my personal, because I feel like I'd get nervous and I wouldn't like it. Is doing a podcast by myself.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I feel like I want to bounce it off people.
Yeah, it is great. It does, when you got another mind there, you got so much information to just immediately pull from. And I'll tell you, I mean, just like, think about this. Like, if there are people who are tuning into, because there are like a lot of those live streams that are going out there in the world. And if they have live streams to where it's just pointing at Times Square or at birds, if there are people who tune into that kind of thing, just think that there are people who tune into all kinds of things. So what I'm getting at is, even if you were to record an hour of you coding, and you're just talking out loud, and they just hear your thoughts out loud, where you're going, okay, this code and this thing and that thing, and that might be very interesting to another person out there who has no frame of reference for coding, who might want to, go, oh, this is so soothing, so relaxing to just hear this guy speak coding, or it could also be awesome to another person who is a coder, who then listens to that to go, oh my God, that's inspirational. Oh, that's how I could work around this thing that I was having trouble. This guy just provided me a key. So there is so much value in whatever, all these ideas that we got going on. If we're still reading philosophy by Aristotle and all these astounding Confucius, all these astounding thinkers from way back in the day, and it still holds true today, oh my God, just imagine what kind of possibilities we can unlock for others. I mean, look what you're doing already with your app. So I can only imagine what kind of other kinds of fun behind-the-scenes stuff. Even if you did a Podyssey, holy moly, Podyssey FM podcast. You go, okay, here you go, guys. Here's a fun, today's 30-second update. Beep, 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 boop. Okay, see you later. And there it is.
Like, here's a great episode you should check out.
What? There's an episode I should check out?
No, because Podyssey is all about discovering podcasts and episodes. So I thought about doing a Podyssey podcast where it's like, hey, this is a great episode, like a weekly, this is the top episode this week, check it out.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Dude, absolutely. And then plus, dude, that's a brilliant idea. See right there. That just needs some wind under those wings. That's all it needs. That just needs some wind under its wings. It's already flying. I can see it. I can see its future. It's phenomenal. And then on top of that, so let's say you make let's say for instance you use Anchor, okay? Let's say for instance you download Anchor. What something you popped into my brain, and I want to add on to what you were saying, that collaborative aspect. One of the things about Anchor, which I love, is that you can actually collaborate with other Anchor people. For instance, if you had Anchor and I had called you through Anchor, this would be recorded right there immediately into Anchor. They would process it and there it is, already on Anchor. And what Anchor does is they upload it to iTunes, they upload it to like 4 or 5 other directories or apps that they have access to. And like I said, I went hog wild and I found a bunch of others out there. So I could actually email you all those others. And the fun thing about this, you would have a podcast FM or a Podyssey FM podcast that would then also be, interestingly enough, advertised on all these other websites too, that could then bring notice to it, which would just be amazing because all of it would just be a great commercial for your app. So, I mean, it's like a fractal.
No, it's a cool idea. Actually, I mean, I don't know how much longer I have. I might have to head out soon. But I'm curious about one thing, or at least one more thing. I'm curious your opinion on Twitch. It sounds like you like the idea of streaming and showcasing live stuff.
I've heard about Twitch, and I know very, very little about it. What do you know about Twitch?
Oh, I mean, so you know that Big Brother thing you mentioned? Like, it was showing the behind the scenes every second.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's a very, very twitchy kind of thing. So you just upload it on Twitch, and so the difference between YouTube and Twitch is Twitch would they now allow you to watch it later, but at the start, and I think the main consumption of it is live. So you get a notification when someone else is live, and you watch it. You watch it like live. You watch that person do it live right there. So you could watch someone feed the birds live in whatever city they're in. You can watch a sunset live with someone else. People watch other people eat food live.
Whoa!
I mean, I've been surprised at how big it is. But, one of the awesome things about it that, podcasting unfortunately doesn't have right now, but I'm hoping we're going to get it, is they have a good way to pay the people that are producing the content. So people can easily give the person that they're watching, they can give them like 50 cents through like you press a button and like the person you're watching gets this cool sticker, but that sticker is actually worth 50 cents for that person. So, or it could be like $5 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
So,
that's so interesting.
The cool thing is, people on Twitch. Twitch has been good about maybe I'm probably not the right person to talk about this because I don't produce content on Twitch. So probably someone that produces content on Twitch would be able to give you their opinion more. But it sounds like Twitch has been, from my perspective, it seems like Twitch has been good at rewarding people that produce content because people that are watching it can easily give that person some funds to continue doing their art.
Wow, that is incredible. That is awesome.
So
now,
check it out.
I mean, heck, you could even have a Twitch where it's showing you it's just you on your fingers on the keyboard while you're coding your next project.
People do that. And actually, like, I've totally thought of watching other people. Like, I totally have seen people say, like, "Oh, hey, watch me build this app."
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and actually, if you're a good coder, I totally would get stuff from that because it'd be like, oh, that's how they do it. That's totally different than I do that. That's awesome.
Wow. It's so intriguing. I love this day and age where people just love to share the information that they've gone out and explored and discovered and sharing it with a populace that's looking for that information to try to unlock a door that they can't figure out how to open. Oh, man, I just love it.
Yeah, same here.
Now, real fast, you were saying something that you're getting more into TV shows and stuff and movies and being affected by that. Were you? It sounds to me that you were kind of going somewhere with that, saying that you're kind of are you thinking of writing some screenplays or getting some movies going?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to get into it, to be honest. Like maybe I will write something. Actually, I do enjoy writing. I don't do it as much, but I do enjoy it. Like creating an idea. I guess I have to think of like what's this big story that I want to tell. But
and a lot of it can also be improv too. I mean, a lot of it. This is something that's popping in my brain. I'm thinking, since you're thinking of getting into writing and stuff, I mean, holy cow, you could have your own sort of radio drama, quick, even if they're 5-minute episodes, 3-minute episodes, tons of collaborators, tons of wonderful storytellers, even if you go, oh, I kind of have an idea for this, and then you get one of your people who likes to write, and they go, oh, yeah, and they can collaborate with you on some characters or whatnot, and there you go, and you already have this wonderful app that you can help, showcase it on, and that is something that I think would be so much fun, is to bring that sort of radio drama back to life, because you can sort of picture anybody in any situation. It's just amazing. It kind of lets your imagination do the talking. You're listening to this thing and your imagination's going, I see it now.
That's cool. It sounds like you're encouraging me to make a podcast, and actually, it's funny. Like a couple other people have told me the same thing in the last couple months. So maybe that's the universe telling me to finally do it.
Dude, absolutely it is. You got your own network channel, if you think of it that way. Like, you got your own... We have successfully... This is what I love so much right now, is that we have successfully taken the power out of network channels and anybody who has a foothold on being the monopoly of saying, oh, yes, your TV show will go on this channel. Oh, yes, your radio show will go on this channel. We've taken all that power away, and we have actually become the media, which I love. I love. So you got your own network. You've successfully made it. You got your own island, and you just got all these little villages that are sort of populating your island. It's just amazing.
Like no one can ever kick me out.
Oh man, it's well, I think it's time. You've got so many people barking at you about making your own podcast. Maybe it's time. You're thinking about, getting to making music. Heck, you can make the music yourself, just fiddling around on your guitar. That was the other thing too that I wanted to do with my podcast, was take away the power in my brain, that whatever that power source that goes, oh, this thing needs to be perfect before you present it to the public. I take away the power from that thing, and I go, okay, you know what? I'm going to just open up the curtain. I'm going to show the populace what's going on. Maybe people are struggling with creating something, so they can actually hear me struggle through creating this thing, or the ways in which I kind of improvise my way through it, so they can kind of see, oh, okay, here's where it started, here's where it's going, and then they can go, all right, okay, there we go. This is, very interesting. So by the way of taking that power away and just going, here's a riff, here's a riff, here's a riff. Now I give the riff an opportunity. I give it a dance floor to sort of like stretch out on, just give it some elbow room. And then on top of that, I now have a record where I can look back on and go, ooh, that's a riff that I can use for a song later on. It serves so many purposes. So, you could, turn that nervousness into the very subject of the podcast even. I'd be nervous doing something by myself. Okay, there we go. Bam, there's the subject. I'm nervous doing a podcast by myself podcast. And so, that could be the whole podcast. Just you talk about like, okay, this is so strange. I'm the only person here listening to my thoughts, talking about this out loud. Man, it when you make it the very source of the power itself, it takes away all nervousness. I think it takes away all power of it.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to whatever your podcast is going to be, and I think so is the Podyssey FM populace.
Oh, I appreciate that.
All right, Danny. Well, I'll let you go. It was great talking to you. Thanks for telling me all about your journey. This is so kick-ass.
Thanks, Gary. That was a really fun conversation. It was good to discover about yourself too.
Thank you, man. Well, I'll talk to you later. Take care.
All right, take care, my friend.
All right,
Take
bye.
care.